So actually, I don't know that when it comes to whether you should dance one style or more than one style, I don't know that I think it's productive for people to dive into multiple styles at first, right? So, and everybody learns different. So everybody comes at this differently, right? So like my job as a teacher is finding what works best for whoever the student is, right? So some students I might go, oh, you know what? You need to multitask. You need to learn 3 or 4 dances at the same time because that's keeping you active or whatever. And other people, I just need you to focus on the basic of this one dance. So I don't know that there's a set formula for everybody. Now, once anybody has gotten rolling in a dance, cross-training is vital, right? So understanding, the body only moves so many ways. So nobody invented, no dance teacher invented how you bend your knees. You bend your knees the way you bend your knees, right? So, but dance teachers do invent methodology, right? They invent a method at which maybe I can get people to bend their knees more effectively. And then how we bend our knees, when we bend our knees, how we're taking a step, all those things start to create these like Lego blocks to create style for that dance. Like how I strike my foot and straighten my leg is different in Latin than it would be how I strike my heel and move forward in waltz, right? My knee only bends in one direction. The system in which I use my walk and my knee is different, right? So it's interesting, especially in dances like the street dances, especially dances like West Coast Swing or salsa or hustle, right? Where we don't have a set style that we want everybody to have. We like that. I like that when I watch the top 10 West Coast Swing pros in the world that they all look different, right? So if I can cross-train and learn how other styles of dance stack their Legos differently. So let's say we all have 4 blue, 4 yellow, and 4 red, right? So I put all 4 on the bottom, and then I put all the yellow, and then I put all the red. And then somebody goes 2 blue, 1 yellow, 3 red, and then, how do we say? Because the Legos are the Legos. My body is my body. So it's kind of fun. And then I can go, oh, you know what? From my dance, I know most people do 4 blue, 4 red, but I'm going to do 2 blue, red, 2 blue, red, because I think it works better for me while staying within the basic. So cross-training gives you more tools. It gives you more tools for whatever dance. If you're picking one dance, it'll give you more tools for that one dance to create your own voice.
Probably does something with the head, opens the mind
for
something new, puts you up out there. What you said yesterday about failure.
Yeah, you have to fail. When we're in fail mode, there's a great book by 𝘂𝗍𝗁 called The Talent Code. And so I do a lot of study on flow with, I think it's 𝘂𝗍𝗁𝗁𝗂𝗃. I always say his name wrong. And then I've done a lot of studying and research on Daniel Kahneman's Fast Brain, Slow Brain, and then also 𝘂𝗍𝗁's The Talent Code, while working as well with Dr. Martha Stark from Harvard. And understanding how the neurological system works, right? So to learn, you must fail. You must go through failure. Like as a kid, when you stand up for the first time, you fall, right? So you learn to walk by learning to fall, right? No child just stands up and walks, right? So
Mine will.
Yeah, yours will. That's awesome. Because the gene pool is so great. So he'll walk up, he'll do animation, and immediately be sarcastic, right? Exactly. Yeah. So learning to fail. So lots of times, also learning to fail puts you into a deep state of thinking, right? So we want to get to what we call optimal stress as opposed to like critical stress. Critical stress is where like your body's in danger, right? So optimal stress is where you're stressed out and you're failing, but your body is desperately trying to figure out and process, right, at a rapid rate. So sometimes if you're really settled into one dance and you feel like you've been stagnant, right, going to an optimal stress level of another dance, right? Like I'll take like contemporary jazz or lyrical jazz at Broadway Dance Center in New York, and I get right to the front. And this one teacher always says, if you really, really know the choreography, come in this group. And if you kind of know the choreography, you're in this group. And if you need me to lead you in the choreography, go to that group. And even if I don't know the choreography, I go to the group that says we know the choreography, right? Always. And I go right to the front, right? Like, and I fail miserably, right? But then by the end of the class, it's there and it's stuck. And 2 weeks later, I can remember the choreography because I went to a critical thinking mode. I went to what's called deep thinking once I'm in an optimal stress situation. So that's going to improve my West Coast swing. Bruce Lee said, no matter what you've learned before, come to me with your cup empty. Right? And so when I go to a class, I took a Zouk class this weekend. Last year, I took 9 hours here. I took salsa, I took kizomba, I took tango, paso doble, cha-cha, rumba.
Me too, I took also 9.
Right.
All with you.
All with me. So for me, and I think you actually do this when you're in class with me, like, because you're an amazing dancer, amazingly gifted dancer.
So we have it on camera.
Right, you do. It's true. So, but you come to my classes so open to receive everything that I'm teaching. So when I go to a class, I always give the teacher the respect of coming to them with my glass empty. So it doesn't matter what I know. Right? I'm not there to prove what I know about dance. I'm there to add to my dance what these teachers know. And maybe if they're teaching something I already know, but they're using different words or a different methodology to deliver it, that's going to improve me. So I really believe that. Like, I have no fear in checking my ego and saying, I don't know this. It doesn't matter what I know. I don't know this. And even if I do know this, I don't know how this teacher teaches this. So everything in my head, everything, that Bruce Lee quote, I think is super important. Go to every teacher, no matter what kind of a master you are. Go to every teacher with your cup empty. So that's called teaching or learning by association, right? So teaching or learning by association is that I associate in what I'm learning something I already know, right? So most of us find some sort of level of learning and or teaching by association to be helpful. For me, like, I started it with East Coast swing before I was doing West Coast swing. So in the early stages, I was trying to find how they were relatable. Does that make sense? But very early on, I also focused on how they were different. So if I'm a jive dancer and I go, oh, this left side pass is just like a left side pass in jive. Well, that's good. Does that make sense? But then I would immediately go, okay, so the traffic, my pattern, right, is the same, but the style is completely different. So what's different about the style? So the only thing I'm going to grab a hold of in my brain is the traffic, is what my pattern is. That's the only thing I'm going to grab a hold of. And now I'm going to release everything else. Does that make sense? So I have to be able to segment those things out.
So first, you're like about like the first thing, first contact, first date is like similarities, but right after that, what are like the differences? Because
right.
This makes...
Right, because what's going to happen is when I'm dancing, so like I could dance West Coast swing, and in a West Coast swing song, I could go into Zouk, I could go into cha-cha, I could go into salsa, I could do Lindy swing outs, and every time I do them, I could do them with the motion and character of that dance. Does that make sense? Cool, because I've taken the time to differentiate what's different with each one of them. So when I dance hustle, I don't look like a West Coast swing dancer dancing hustle. I look like a hustle dancer dancing hustle, right? So yeah, because I've paid attention to the authenticity of the dance. Does that make sense? So like an underarm turn is an underarm turn. I could lead an underarm turn in cha-cha, and I can or a right side pass, and I could lead one in West Coast swing. The traffic that I'm traveling is the same. The pattern is the same. Does that make sense? So, but then I have to go, what's the motion and character of the dance? And how are these motion and characters of the dance different? And actually, I thrive on the differences. I go like, oh, this is different than that. How I use my knees, how I pulse my knees in West Coast swing is very different than how I pulse my knees in Lindy hop. That's awesome. I love that. I love that I can dissect that. Does that make sense? And so that way, when I'm doing the dances, I can look authentic. Lots of times people get married to, I'm dancing West Coast swing, but my knees bounce in Lindy hop so much that now that's just my habit. I go, oh, no, that's just your excuse. That's like, because you can learn another habit. I promise you have more than one habit, right? So you can learn another one. So I go, what are the differences? Then I go, this is amazing. And I go, these differences are amazing. Like, it's how you say it, right? I don't go, these differences are so hard. No, these differences are amazing. I'm so happy that I know them so that I'll look authentic when I do those dances.
Say like when you say I'm nervous or I'm excited, it's the same thing, same symptoms.
I love being nervous.
But just, it's like one is positive, the other is negative.
Right. I love being nervous because people ask me all the time. I've been competing for over 30 years, and people ask me all the time, do you still get nervous? And I go, yeah, of course. And they go, really? And they go, what do you do about it? I go, I love it. And they said, why? I go, because to be nervous means I care. And I love that I care. If I'm nervous, I'm caring about something. I'm caring about how I look to the audience. I'm caring about the audience's experience. I'm caring about my partner. Like, I'm caring about the experience my partner's going to have. I'm caring about the experience the audience is going to have. I care. I want people to feel joy. So I care about them feeling joy. Well, that's an amazing thing. Like, because some people don't care, right? And if I don't care, why am I doing this, right? So things like being nervous thrill me. There's three things that I apply to learning and dances, right? So there's physical absolutes. So a physical absolute is my knee only bends in one direction. That's a physical absolute. It can bend the other way, but only once. So that's a physical absolute. Then there's discretionary absolutes. So a discretionary absolute is something we all agree upon as a society. So West Coast Swing, 100 out of 100 West Coast Swing teachers will tell you a follows count 1 walking forward is their right foot. Now, if I go to the Coliseum tonight, to the bar, and I grab a lady and I say, oh, let's do West Coast Swing, and she doesn't do West Coast Swing, and I pull her forward, could she walk forward on her left foot? Of course she could. So it's not physical, it's not a physical absolute that she has to do her right foot. But we all agree that the right foot should be the basic for count 1 for the follow. All of us. So that's a discretionary absolute. It's something we all agree upon. Everything else is an opinion. Everything else is an opinion. So if somebody says take a heel lead and somebody else says take a ball lead, and they both have similar pedigrees as dance teachers, well, then obviously it's just an opinion. So
the personal preference.
Right, exactly. And the opinion should be based on something. Like there should be some sort of clinical reason why you're having them do it. Like, I don't like answers like, oh, well, that's old school and this is new school, or those are stupid answers from people who don't have any education. So as opposed to saying, oh, I like you to take a heel lead because it slows down your percentage of weight to the strike of the beat, keeps you a little bit more bat in the back of the foot, so or it creates a more pedestrian leg, or, oh, I like you taking the ball because from the ball you're going to push more, whatever. Like if you come up with some sort of dance reason or clinical reason why. So for me, I'm never shocked with, God, I really thought that's because I know how the body works. So nobody's ever said to me something where I went, oh my God, I really thought the knees only bent one way, but I guess they bend the other way. That doesn't happen. So because I understand the physical absolutes, right? What is interesting is sometimes understanding what are the discretionary absolutes, where I go like, wow, that's very different for this dance. I've never used CBM this way, contra body motion. Like I've never done CBM in transition as opposed to at the strike of the step. I'm just making this up. So that might go like, wow, I've never taken these two Legos and put them together this way. Does that make sense? But as long as somebody's not asking me to do something that's a physical absolute, that goes against a physical absolute, there's no shock. There's no shock. The body only moves so many ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the way we combine these is
right. And actually, all couples dancing falls into 2 sets of physics. All couples dancing, you're either single axis or double axis. Yeah. That's it. Everything, and there's a set of physics for both of those. And it doesn't matter what the dance is. All dances fall into those 2 categories. It's either a single axis dance or a double axis dance, and some go in and out of both. And so, if you understand the physics of single axis and you understand the physics of double axis, you're pretty set.
Good or
right.
better.
Right. What they're missing, we can't really teach them. So the number one thing all dance students are missing is work ethic. So nobody wants to take the time to really solidify. I tell people all the time that, amateurs do it until they get it right. I'll do it until I can't get it wrong, which is 1,000 times after I've gotten it right the first time. So in Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, we talk about the 10,000 hour rule, right? So for me, it's about the thing that dance students struggle with the most is retention of new motor skill. Like they're learning a new motor skill. So here's what we know, right? So we know that the way your neurological pathway works is like you do something new and it creates this, it looks almost like you could say like Christmas lights or something, right? So, or like lightning that shoots like through and it creates this neurological kind of path, electrical path, right? I'm kind of doing this simple, right? So it creates this neurological path and, but then it goes away. So the more you do it, the more that happens. Does that make sense? Cool. And the more that happens, the more it stays. And then as that like kind of like lightning flashes, you have these like cells, right? They're called oligos, right? That's the shortened name. I always say the long name wrong. But what they do is they have these arms, these like tentacles, and they reach out and they grab that electric line, and they're kind of like this. And when they grab and they squeeze, they like kind of flat. They like release this plasma, right? This it's called myelin sheath, and they release around it, and it becomes almost like putting electrical tape or rubber around an electric wire, insulation, right? So, and then it's solidified. So here's what we know. We know that like the ability to create myelin and the oligos, whatever, we get them in waves, lots of them up until age 30, right? So then it starts to slow down. And at age 50, no more come about. So you can still learn. You still have some in your system. You always have some available to you, but not as many in waves, which is why we know that we learn motor skills faster when we're younger, because our ability to create the myelin sheath over the neurological pathway is just greater. And so in order to do that, plus age 30, you require more repetition than you did prior to age 30. And where most people struggle is in doing the repetition enough that they've created that neurological pathway, have solidified it, so they don't have to think about it anymore. And then it becomes, if you do it enough, it becomes the illusion of always. So the illusion of always is that you've just always done it. So like walking is the illusion of always. You haven't always walked. You had to learn to walk. But once you got it, and once that firing of that neurological pathway just happens, you don't think about it anymore, you go, oh, I've just always walked. Well, that's not true, right? You had to learn it. So that's called the illusion of always. So students don't do enough to create the illusion of always when it comes to walk, triple, triple, or whatever it is they're trying to learn. So I feel like you can learn dance one of two ways. This is a Brandy Guild quote. Brandy says you can learn dance in church, or you can learn dance from school, right? So you can learn it kind of faith-based, where like really just good natural dancers who really don't have any training are teaching you what they think they're doing. And so you just believe them. You just believe they have faith in what they're doing, even with no knowledge of the science. And so then you have faith in them, right? So that's kind of church-based, right? And then we have school-based, like where we understand 2 + 2 is 4, right? And we've done that. Now, actually, in life, it's really nice to have a good combination of both of those things, right? It's good to have a little bit of faith to that, and kind of like let that side of your brain really go to that place, while also knowing that 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah. So we should really have the right combination of the two, right?